Wonderful. So, hi everyone and welcome. My name is Jillian Bloomfield and I work for the Environmental Leadership and Training Initiative at Yale University, or ELTI. I'm here today with my colleague Karen Bucht, who will also be helping facilitate the session. So ELTI is an initiative of Yale University's School of the Environment. Our program works to train and support people from all sectors and backgrounds to conserve tropical forest landscapes using strategies that support biodiversity and human livelihoods. We welcome you today to this information session to learn more about the Tropical Forest Landscapes online certificate program. So this year-long program offers a unique opportunity for environmental professionals from around the world to develop concrete skills, advance your careers, and to explore science and solutions related to tropical land management from different perspectives. And we're very pleased to be joined by 3 current and past participants who have come to share their perspectives on the program and how they've approached the practical project elements of the program. Our participants here today include Justina Kimbesa, a project management specialist from USAID Tanzania, Wesley Snell, project manager from Conserve Natural Forests Italy, and Damien Wagner, senior project manager at UBSAG Switzerland. So we've divided this information session into 3 parts. First, Karen will give a brief program overview. Then we will hear from our panel of participants and then open up for questions and discussion. Some housekeeping. As we progress in the information session, if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A window of this webinar system. And if you're not already, we encourage you to submit your answer to the poll, which we will be activating now. So from this poll, it'll help us understand where you are in learning about the program. And then Karen and I are both program coordinators for the certificate program and serve as mentors to participants and prospective applicants like yourselves. So after the session, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have additional questions or would like to schedule a time to chat. And now I'll hand the floor over to Karen for our brief program overview.
Great, thanks, Jillian. So welcome everyone. It's really such a pleasure to be seeing all of you here today and to see that there's so much interest in the program. So off the bat, one thing we want to mention is if you're interested in the program, now is the time to really be learning about it and to start submitting your application. Our applications are open for our next cohort, which will be running from May of this year to May of the following year. So the program, what is it? It's a 1-year, what we call high touch, so very interactive online program on managing tropical forest landscapes. The program is made up of 4 core 8-week online courses on different themes that happen sequentially. So through the first 8 weeks, you'll be learning about fundamentals, really getting the basics of ecological and social concepts that are really important just for framing how to understand tropical forest landscapes, understanding why do we want to manage tropical forest landscapes. During the next 8 weeks, we'll dive into all of the social aspects that make these systems and management decisions really fascinating, but also very complex. So you'll be learning about different types of stakeholders, different challenges and trade-offs, different types of governance, and thinking about those and how they apply in your own work. The 3rd week is our strategies course. And so this is really where, I guess to use a English colloquium, where the rubber hits the road, this is where you really start thinking about how do you actually do conservation restoration. So you'll be exposed to a wide range of strategies that are supplemented by academic theory, as well as a global host of case studies that really show different examples of how you can do different types of strategies depending on goals. So whether you're looking to restore wildlife or ecosystem services or generate timber, you'll be exposed to a wide range of different examples that you can draw from in your own work. The fourth 8-week course is our funding course. So none of this happens in a vacuum. You know, it takes money to do conservation and restoration. So we'll be thinking about how do you figure out how much it's going to cost to do your initiatives, and how and where might you seek that funding. So we'll explore different types of funding sources, what are different things to consider, and help you build a funding plan for a project of your choice. In addition to the core courses, we have our field week, which I'll get to in a little bit. And we also have the year-long Capstone Project course, which our panelists, I think, will be sharing a bit about. But we think this is a really unique thing about the program. This runs throughout, and this is a way for participants to really take everything they're learning and apply it to a real-life project of their choice. In addition to what they're learning in each of the core courses, they're also learning about different tools to help visualize and articulate and make decisions about projects. So they come out of the program with a project design brief and some really unique skill sets that they can go and use in their own work. So what happens in each course? So each course includes educational content. So this is made up of videos, a number of different readings, interactive presentations, as well as case studies, like I mentioned. There's lots of opportunities for interaction and feedback. So through live sessions, we have weekly sessions on Zoom where participants interact with each other, as well as guests and instructors, as well as other ways to exchange with colleagues in the program through discussion boards, peer exchange, and receiving expert review on their assignments. And then there's this application aspect that I mentioned. So in the capstone, as well as the other courses, everyone's being asked to think about how this applies to a specific project or their own work, and really, you know, make the program very applicable to their own interests. So just a snapshot of what it looks like week to week. Each course is divided into weekly thematic modules. So in a given week, you'll have access to a new module. And this is an example of the course platform. So you'll go online, you'll get a page that shows you, what you'll be learning about that week, what the core concepts are. That will direct you to all of the materials that you need for that week. You'll be watching video presentations. Like I mentioned, you'll have access to, through the program, you'll have access to over 130 presentations from over 70 speakers. So it's a very diverse, rich resource in terms of content and diversity of perspectives that you'll be viewing. And then, of course, there are these interactive live sessions. So this is just a snapshot. I see a familiar face in this screenshot here that going to be talking to us shortly, but these are really chances to interact with your peers in the program and to share your own experience. It's also a chance to interact in real time with our instructors who are Yale faculty members or fellows, as well as guest experts who we bring in. So it's a really unique chance to get that kind of face-to-face interaction that is sometimes hard to find in online learning. And then there's the application aspect. So again, we'll be talking about the capstone projects, but this is just a sample of something that participants build through the program. And while it might look either very complicated or not look like much, it's actually a really helpful tool. So this is a conceptual model that is something that the participants build. And it's just a way for them to articulate and think about their project and really identify concrete strategies that make sense in a very specific context. And then, of course, there's a field course, which I mentioned before. So the field course is optional. It takes place in one of ELTI's training landscapes, which are in the Philippines, Indonesia, Panama, Colombia, or Brazil. During our first year, we offered the course in the Philippines. And so these are just a few pictures from the course. So participants had the chance to get their hands dirty, help work on a nursery chamber, meet community members, do activities in the field, and really see concepts in practice through this field course. So some of you might be wondering what the status is for the field course given the current global pandemic. So for our current cohort, we have postponed the course, but anyone who enrolls either in our current or future cohorts, they will maintain eligibility to take that course once it's run. So we're hoping we'll be back on track to offer the course as it's scheduled next January. But if it's not possible, just please know that you haven't missed your chance to do the field course. So who takes the program? So this is just a snapshot view of our participants to date from our first 2 offerings of the program. You can see there's a wide geographic spread from almost every continent. We also have a pretty big diversity in terms of the industry people are coming in. The largest proportion is coming from nonprofit, but we also have a number in academia, private industry, government, as well as quite a few from other. And so to date, we've had 105 participants from 46 countries representing 78 organizations. And so why do people actually take the program? This again is as diverse reasons as the demographics you just saw. So some people are coming into the program with 20 years of experience working on restoration conservation, and they really just want to further their skills. Some are really at a launching point. Our recent graduates really want to get their career going. Some are looking to pivot into the field from somewhere else. So people have joined the program and benefited from the program for a wide variety of reasons, including honing their skills, expanding their network, getting specific tools and examples, starting a new career, and also just getting back into that classroom environment. So what are the benefits of the program? One of the really unique benefits is you can interact with Yale instructors from anywhere in the world. It's a really unique opportunity. There's, I think, over 10 different faculty members featured through the pre-recorded presentations. They also serve as instructors, so you get that opportunity to interact with them as well as other experts. It's meant to be for working professionals. It's a part-time program that's targeted to take only 5 to 6 hours of your time per week. So you don't have to stop everything to do this program. You can fit it into your day-to-day work, granted with a little bit of effort, but it's definitely doable. It's a really unique opportunity to make connections with professionals around the world. So in a given cohort, we have anywhere from 40 to 70 participants coming from these diverse backgrounds that I mentioned. And you come out of the program with an automatic network of these people from many different places, many different backgrounds. It's a really unique opportunity to learn to think very deeply and broadly about conservation work through various perspectives. I mentioned we have over 70 speakers that provide content for the program. You'll be hearing from a lot of different perspectives, from anthropologists, from practitioners, from people, from biologists, and you'll be getting that very holistic view of how to think about tropical forest landscapes and how to approach them and manage them. You'll learn technical knowledge that can be helpful for your career as well as your day-to-day work. And the program, as I mentioned earlier, is high touch, so you get dedicated support from program mentors who are myself and Jillian. So online learning, we know it can be sort of isolating. It can kind of feel lost or kind of just feel like you're off doing it on your own. And we really try to make you feel supported through the process. So we're there to check in how you're doing. We're there to screen questions, help you find answers to things, whether they're technical questions about the material, whether it's troubleshooting with the platform. You always have someone that you can reach out to and schedule a call with, chat about your project, that really wants to help you succeed. So in terms of pricing, the program tuition is $6,000 for the full program. The optional field course is available for an additional fee. This tuition includes all of the courses, so all of the core courses as well as the capstone course, unlimited access to all of the materials during the program as well as after, the support you get from program mentors, the interaction with the experts, as well as instructor feedback on your coursework. We do recognize that the price point can be challenging for some, so we do offer a limited number of partial scholarships. These are available on a competitive basis. They range between 25 to 75% of the tuition fee. Unfortunately, at this time, we are not able to offer full tuition scholarships. So if this is something you're interested in, as you're filling out your application, you'll have a chance to indicate that you'd like to apply, and you'll be directed to fill out a few essay questions based on the scholarship opportunities you're interested in. These are competitive, so we do strongly encourage everyone to also look for external funding sources. We've had individuals who have had success in getting partial or full support from their employer, applying to professional development funds, among others. And if this is something you're wondering about, definitely feel free to send us an email and we're happy to help. So the application requirements, so if you're interested in applying, you'll need to fill out an application form in our through our website there, and you'll need to submit these materials with your application. So this will include a scanned or electronic transcript, a resume or CV, and then a personal statement and 2 short response statements and professional recommendations. So you'll be asked to give the name and contact information of someone who can provide a reference, and they'll be contacted automatically. So if to get more information and to start thinking about your application, if you go to tropicalrestorationcertificate.yale.edu/admissions, there's more information on these admission requirements and how to apply. Before you start the application, we do suggest you take a look at the program dates, the technical requirements, and the application checklist to make sure that you know when the program is, that you'll be able to participate, and that you have all your materials ready to go. Also, if you have questions while you're applying, you can always email us at tropicalcertificate@yale.edu. So the application deadline is coming up. We have a priority deadline on February 28th. If you apply by the priority deadline, what this means is you are guaranteed review of your application. Applications received after the priority deadline will be reviewed on a rolling basis until the cohort is full or up until the final deadline. So you have a little bit of time, but we do strongly encourage you to get those materials in soon, especially so we can make sure that there's no missing pieces that will prevent your application from moving forward. And then for more information, please definitely go to our website, send us an email if you have specific questions, and we're happy to help. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Karen. And as mentioned, you can write any questions you have in the Q&A feature, and we'll get to as many as we can now, and then can follow up via email at that tropicalcertificate@yale.edu email that Karen mentioned. So now we'll have the exciting chance to hear from our panel of participants, Justina Kambesa, Wesley Snell, and Damien Wagner. First, we'll have introductions and then hear more about the capstone projects of each participant and hear their advice for prospective applicants. So I'll stop my share right now so that we can start the panel. What I'll do is I'll first give a little introduction and then ask each of you to say a few words starting out, and then we'll talk more about the project element. So we'll start with Justina. If you want to activate your microphone, while you do that, I'll start an introduction to just share that Justina Kambesa, as I mentioned, is a project management specialist at USAID Tanzania. Justina is a current program participant focusing her capstone project on community-centered restoration and protection in Tanzania. So Justina, we'd love to hear from you a bit about yourself, what brought you to the program, and what you're getting out of it so far.
Okay, thank you, Jillian, and for this great opportunity. As you mentioned, my name is Justina Kambesa, and I work for USAID Tanzania. And what motivated me to join this program is because I started my career 8 years ago as a generalist. I've been a project manager for different projects in various sectors, but conservation and forestry was at core of my interest. And when I joined USAID 2015, I joined as a budget specialist, and the opportunity came to join natural resources management as the project management specialist. So having a background of information technology undergraduate and international cooperation development for my master's, I lacked the formal skills and knowledge on conservation and forestry restoration at all. So when I saw this opportunity, I said, let me jump right at it, because reading from the course context, I knew it would offer what I wanted. So for 2 years, I've been the project manager in natural resources management. There were some terminologies and ideas that maybe the implementer, because I'm working for a donor, so they submit their, quarter report, annual report, work plans, and whatsoever. And sometimes I go to these technical meetings, and I was finding it difficult to understand some of the things because I'm just a general project manager. But after joining this course, it was an eye-opener to many of the things that I didn't know before, from motivation for conservation and restorations, the payment for ecosystems, all the good content of this course. And I'm glad, and I think it was a right opportunity for me to join this course. And I would argue everyone who is listening, you won't waste your time, neither money, because as Karin said, they have very resourceful professors, and we are flooded with library materials, videos, and also the ability, the opportunity to interact from participants across the world, because I'm from East Africa and I've never traveled to Southeast Asia, but I get to hear stories and conservation, forest management from that part. So it enriches my skills and knowledge that I lacked before. So I shouldn't say much. Thank you, and over.
Thank you so much, Justina. And now we'll hear from Wesley. So Wesley Snell's a project manager at Conserve Natural Forests Italy, and Wesley is a current participant focusing his Capstone project on an integrated approach to forest landscape management or forest landscape restoration in Thailand. So same question for you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, what brought you to the program, and what you're getting out of it so far?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, hey everyone, my name's Wes. As Jillian mentioned, I have been the project manager for a small NGO based in northern Thailand called Conserve Natural Forests. I'm living here in Italy at the moment and about to finish a master's degree in forest science. And I guess I signed up for this program for several reasons. It's a small NGO. I was wearing a lot of hats and spinning a lot of plates, I guess, but a lot of my work was quite narrow and project focused. And I lacked the sort of broad foundational knowledge, especially regarding something like tropical forest restoration, which is such a dynamic field. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. And so signing up for this class, I think for me, was about two things. The course contents that you get from the units, like the fundamentals, the people courses, funding and strategies, really helped build my vocabulary. And the Capstone project that accompanies it was a way of building my grammar, I think. I was able to really learn a lot of new tools and concepts that I could apply in my field. And then the Capstone project really helped me learn how to stitch those ideas together so that they have a logical flow, so that there's an agreement, I guess, between the noun and the verb, or between the result that I'm looking for and what actions I'm going to take to get there. So I really benefited a lot from that. As Justina mentioned too, I think it's not only that you get to interact with people from all over the world who are doing all kinds of things, but more likely than not, you'll also be interacting with people who are working in a similar field and in a similar region as you. So a lot of people, there's several of us who are mostly concentrated in Southeast Asia. And it's been really interesting hearing perspectives from people working in Indonesia or Cambodia or Vietnam, where the ecosystem, it's different, obviously, and we've learned a lot how to tease out those subtle context-specific differences, but there's a lot of similarities too, and a lot of shared resources and things that I've really benefited from. Yeah. It's a great program. I mean, I think, like Jillian and Karen said, you get a lot of. We're lucky that we have people make themselves available to us. I think if I had one piece of advice for people signing up for this program, it would be, don't just treat it like an online class where you do the required readings and you go to the lecture and then you go back. Try to participate in a dialogue. Almost everybody who has given a lecture, the Yale professors, but also working professionals with the IUCN or the Nature Conservancy or these other big NGOs, if I had a specific question, I've reached out to them, and 99.9% of the time I've gotten a response, which is really nice. It makes you feel like you're part of a conversation. So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Thanks, Wesley. And like both Justine and Wesley said, the part of the idea is that the content you get in the course is only part of the learning process, sharing amongst all of the different participants, and then outside of the formal constraints of the program is also a really enriching element. So now we'll hear from our last panelist, John Damien Wagner, Senior Project Manager at the Multinational Investment Bank, UBS AG in Switzerland. John Damien is a program alumnus who participated last year in the program and focused his capstone project on the Hutan Alam Agroforestry Project in Indonesia. JD, could you explain a little bit about yourself, your experience in the program, and your perspective 9 months later?
Thank you very much, Jillian. Yeah, and very pleased to meet all of you. So, as you have heard already, I have a quite different background than Justina and Wes. I was totally, I have absolutely no background in regards to the environmental or ecological topics. And basically, I was 3 years ago, I was based in Singapore, and then I suddenly realized that I wanted to make a shift in my career, and so move away from the pure banking industry in which I'm active since now 12 or 13 years, and try to focus a bit more on sustainability and environmental topics. And so one of the reasons why I was looking for a program was that so I thought I wanted to develop some knowledge before to allow me to make this career shift. So I was looking for a program, first of all, which had a good brand. So I wanted something which would be recognized globally, and of course with the Yale name, basically you can open up all doors and you can get the attention of anyone. So that was already like a first criteria to me. Then I was looking for a program which was which would allow me to continue to work, but which would still go into the details enough, so that I would acquire a specific knowledge and not only, like high level stuff like I could already read on the internet by myself. So in that sense, and I think Wes and Justina have already mentioned it, I think that was the perfect size, and it's a very good format. So you get a lot of flexibility to decide when you want to work on the classes week by week. Karin mentioned, I think it takes maybe 5 to 10 hours, depending on how deep you want to go and how many readings you want to take. But you can do it whenever you have time and whenever that's convenient for you. So that was something which I think was very beneficial. And the other thing that I thought was really making a big difference for this program compared to other trainings that I have done is, and Karin has also mentioned it, it's very much high touch. So she mentioned that word a couple of times, and I think that was one of the strongest argument for it, because you have the program lasting over 12 months. So it's a decent period of time. You have really the time to build relationships, even though it's online. You start to really exchange with the other participants. So outside the classes, and I started exchanging WhatsApp numbers, email addresses, whatever you want, and then exchange on IDs or opinions. And I was doing that, as was mentioned as well. I was doing that also with any speakers that I thought was interesting, and so on. And so to answer your last question, Gillian, it's been 9 months now, or short to a year, that I am done with the program. And so to come back on the original reason why I was searching for a program, I have just now been able to find a new position and make that career shift that I was mentioning. So I'm in a couple of months transiting into a team that really covers sustainability aspects. What's interesting, and just to complete what I just mentioned to you and to show the power of the network that you can build up in the program, I was introduced to my future line manager via one of the speakers of the funding course of the program. So it's by contacting him that then I got introduced to the person who has now hired me to for my new role.
Great, thank you, JD. Exciting news to announce.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And as you can see from the participants, there's this is just 3 people out of, we had 40 participants last year and we have 60 participants this year. There's such a range of different experiences and interests that people have coming to the program, different backgrounds. So the program's designed so that you don't have to be an expert in ecology or an expert in social science or an expert in anything specific. There's a lot of materials that are provided as supplemental materials that you can explore if you need to build up your foundation or dig in deeper. But the aim of the program is to kind of guide you through the learning experience regardless of your background. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here. Here you all should see. So as Karen mentioned earlier, a major component of the program is the Capstone Project. And from moment one, the participants are encouraged to think about how the content you're learning applies to a specific landscape or region. So participants use the project and its context to practice each of the strategic planning tools that are introduced during the year. Some participants are engaged in projects that directly relate to their work and lives on the ground in the places where they live, and others are living outside of the tropics but are working on projects with key partners through their current connections, past connections, or connections facilitated by our instruction team. So some of the most frequent questions we get from prospective participants is how it is related to this project. What is it like? What are some examples? So to give you all a glimpse into the project, our 3 panelists have each prepared some thoughts and visuals to share about the project. So it'd be great if each of you could share a bit. This time, let's start with JD and we'll go in the other order.
Sure, thank you, Jillian. So yeah, first of all, I want to reassure you in case some of you are wondering, you know, as Jillian mentioned, I'm totally not in the topic. So I was really a bit afraid when I applied. I was like, oh my God, there's this project which apparently is lasting the whole year. I'm working in wealth management. It has nothing to do with tropical forests. How am I going to do that? And so an advice for the ones who will take the course is really, I think, if you work in the field already, great, you know, then pick a project that is close to you because you will have the most inputs, and then probably it will help you to you know, to progress on it. But if you are not, then that's absolutely no problem. And one of the recommendations I would have, and this is what I had done, is just reach out to NGOs or other associations that might have this kind of projects and maybe are just starting one, and might benefit from you acting kind of as a consultant for them. So what I had organized is I reached out to this association. They had an agroforestry project, which is briefly summarized here. It's a project in East Kalimantan in Indonesia. It's an area that had burnt about 20 years ago. So since then, the forest was very degraded there. And so they got the concession for 45 years on this area. It was a very, very large project, as you can see, more than 170,000 hectares. So it's really massive. And their project was to develop an agroforestry system on that, which would contribute to the living, to the livelihood of the communities around it, and then restore the carbon sink and also restore the vegetation more than kind of the shrubs and degraded forest that was there right now. And so the way I was interacting with them, and happy to discuss afterwards, Jill and Karen, depending on the questions, but I had set up just an easy once or twice a month a call with this corporation that had this project, and I was just sharing with them a bit the different topics that we would have covered in the class, and of course the questions that I had to ask, and then they would provide me with inputs, and I would provide them with questions or advice based on what we had seen in class. And so in that sense, for me, it made it very concrete, even though I was very far away from the tropical forest topic in my work. And I think for them, they invested a bit of time, but they also got some good challenges or questions that I took from the class that we had.
Thank you so much, JD. Now we'll go to, oh dear. Hi.
That's fine. So that was
cool.
just to share a bit the different goals of the project. No worries.
Okay, if you all have more questions, you're welcome to communicate with JD after this or bring them up in the last few minutes. So now we'll have Leslie share a little bit about your project. Again, what from the perspective of what you think would be useful for prospective applicants to the program.
Wow, this thing is super pixelated. Sorry about that, guys.
Dear.
That's I'm sure that's my fault. I had a hard time navigating it, but regardless, kind of like JD mentioned, I remember when I was sitting in Yale about a year ago, and we were going through some of these conceptual models, and it looked really daunting and very overwhelming, I guess. I just thought, how am I going to stitch that thing together? And this, what I'll say about this conceptual model, which I'm really happy about, and it's become kind of my little baby that sometimes I go back to and tend to, and it's a garden. I go back, I weed it, maybe I plant new ideas in there, but it was a slow process putting this together. Methodical might be the word, and I think the thing that I benefited from the most, besides just having all these exposure to new tools and different approaches, I think that this course taught me as well how to ask the right questions. Before that blue box in the middle there, a lot of our focus in conserved natural forests was on ecological integrity. And I think that we were really missing targets for the people who our conservation projects were meant to benefit. I think this is a personal flaw of mine. I sort of was so hyper focused on learning more about the ecology and tropical forest restoration and silvicultural techniques and seedling propagation and nursery design, that it was a myopic view compared to how my vision has expanded since, I guess, looking more at what are the main drivers of deforestation these days? How can we address those? What are the direct threats to people's health? What do the people in the landscape need? And how can our project benefit them as well? And it's really expanded the scope of our work, and also helped us be much more precise, I guess, about where we choose to plant trees. That's still our forte. That's our main thing. We have we raise trees and determine where to plant them. But now we're not just considering, I guess, the ecological benefits, but thinking about nature-based solutions to, natural disaster mitigation, securing hill slopes in areas where people might be exposed to landslide risk, for example, or an integrated watershed management, trying to improve the water quality, reducing sediment yield. It's still technical, but I think that the benefits for the people are much more articulated now, which I really appreciate. So to me, some of these things I had spent years working on, but it really broadened the scope, bringing in the people component, which I really appreciate this course focuses so much on.
Great, thank you, Leslie. And yeah, these conceptual models are an idea of the kinds of tools that you build and develop over time in the program. So at first it may be like, whoa, what are all those boxes? But the capstone course specifically guides every participant to think about it in a logical pathway, so that you're designing strategies based on a theory of change, based on a logical flow, and not just perhaps some of the biases in your upbringing or the approaches you've done in the past.
They are a bit impressive like that, but basically we start from the 2-3 boxes that I had on my slides to end up something like what Wes has 6 months later.
Yeah, and it never really felt rushed. It felt like we really took our
Step
time
by
at
step.
each step. Yeah.
So then lastly, for this part, Justina. Could you, oh, there you go.
Yeah. My project is based in Western Tanzania, and it's called Gombe Masito Girl Ecosystem Community Centered Restoration and Protection Project. And the vision I had when I picked this project is having an enriched landscape that shelters chimpanzees and people, because in Western Tanzania, the GMU ecosystems, which was designated by UNESCO in 2018 as Biosphere Reserve, it harbors more than 90% of chimpanzees that are found in Tanzania. And this important population has been affected by different issues. Forest destruction like deforestation, and also population growth, and all those factors. So because I manage a project in that landscape too, but there are issues that I've seen the project that I manage didn't incorporate. And that's why I said in my capstone, I needed to, work on the issues that the project that I manage didn't work on. And so the target of my project, as I said, is chimpanzee population, their habitat, which is forest, and also connectivity, because the landscape has 2 national parks that harbors chimpanzees. One is Gombe National Park, which is in a GMU, and another one is Mahale, which my project won't focus on, but it's very important and critical for genetic issues for chimpanzee population to mix. And also there are another population in Burundi. Initially, long time ago, there were connectivity corridors. These chimpanzee could, move around, go to Burundi, come down to Mahale. But due to population pressure, and also encroachment in these areas, those connectivity corridors were, degraded and taken away by human activities. And also another target is river forests, and due to poverty, people go to river forest where the land is good and it's near the water, and because they don't have money to do irrigation and so I also found it because the river forests are also threatened that much, so I thought I should put as a target. And going to get where I envision, I had 4 strategies or approaches, and one of them is develop land use plan and implementation, by which, because Tanzania, most in rural areas, land is not planned. That's why it's easy people to move around and go, cultivate in river forest or encroach national parks. So I thought one of the best strategies to do land use plans, demarcate land on various uses, and which I gained some more knowledge from the course. There is a course that, taught us about land use plan and implementation. And also on the landscape, there is, the local government who have mandate to oversee natural resources management in rural areas in Tanzania are incapacitated in one way or another. And one is skills, and also another one is resources like funds and human resource. You may find like one district which is supposed to have a forester and natural resources management officer, but the government don't have enough funds to staff people there, or even if they have them, but they don't have much capacity to oversee natural resources management. And the other strategy is, expanding market-driven livelihood, because what I've learned from the course and in the college course, the motivation to conservation, people who are around these forests or wildlife, they should see the value to why they should conserve and why they should take care of the forest. So, and having this strategy, planning to work with the communities, educated them why they should, conserve by giving them opportunities to see they can get more from the forest, even not cutting them down, or coming up with different livelihood activities that are out of the forest, so people can get extra money and avoid exploitation of forest and natural resources. And the other strategy, I thought, it's strengthening community awareness, environmental education, because most people in the rural areas, they don't have understanding that conservation needs to have. And when you go there and talk to people and tell them the importance, like we need the environment more than it needs us, then they understand. And also on this component also, I plan to embed education about chimpanzees, because there are a lot of myths going around about chimpanzees, and some people do kill them, and sometimes they say we care more about them than people. So this whole strategy will be about working with communities, making them understand why we should conserve the environment, why we shouldn't cut down the forest, and why we should keep chimpanzees and other wildlife on the landscape. Over.
Thank you, Justina. So you can see the projects are very varied and have such a variety in terms of those that are deeply embedded in current work and those that are done with partners more as a consultancy that JD mentioned, and then everything in between. So now that before we go to the general questions, though I want to mention that Karen's been answering a lot of the logistical questions in the Q&A. If you go to the Q&A and you should be able to see the questions and the answers for the ones where she's typed an answer. There'll also be some that then we'll get to speak out loud, but you can use that as a starting place. Keep coming with the questions. And while we start to engage with the questions, I just want to ask if any of our panelists have one final piece of advice they'd like to share for prospective applicants. And that can be from any of you.
If I just can throw a couple of things to you. The first one, which I realized I forgot to mention, was again talking about the field course. And as mentioned beforehand, I think this is optional. I decided to take it and to go into the Philippines for a week. I know this year has been a bit more difficult with COVID time, but we did that just before it all bursted, so we were quite lucky. And if you have the chance to do it, I would really recommend to go for it. For me, the key two takeaways that I had was it was a very nice wrap up of what we had seen in the course. So you really get to implement and you see live what you have learned, kind of in the classes, in the videos, in the readings. So it was that was very beneficial for me. And two, of course, I mentioned that already. It's all the networking aspect. of course, you can do it, you know, over the year of the program, but it was also very nice to spend 1 week with some of the people with whom you interact for months, and also some of the teachers. So I think that that was very, very good.
Thank you, JD. Wesley or Justina?
I guess I would just say that again, that, you know, this isn't like a traditional online MOOC course where it's a dialogue, you know, and Jillian, you and Karen and Amy Vetter, who leads the capstone course, and all the professors are extremely available. And I think that my best piece of advice would be to make it a conversation rather than just watching pre-recorded videos. Reach out and talk to the people that you're learning from, and talk to the people that you're learning with, because I've learned so much that way.
Thanks, Wesley. Great advice. And then Justina.
Yeah, one advice I can give is it doesn't matter what is your background. If you're interested in forest and conservation, this course caters for everybody's need. As I said, I shared my experience. I didn't have, you know, background in ecology or whatever, but the professors take you through all those core things that somebody needs to know in forest, in tropical forest conservation, restoration, and sustainable use. So don't be scared, don't hesitate or contemplate much. Maybe you'll be left behind if you don't have any background in ecology whatsoever. But once you start the program, then you just see if you take time and reserve time to follow through, like making sure like you don't miss the live sessions, because as Wesley has said, it's very important because you get to one-to-one with a professor who is heading that course, and also hear from other participants, and also in discussion forums where we share our reflection after each week, you know, having a lecturer, then you share your reflection, what you learned, people raise questions. So it's very useful. You get to hear a lot of more things that maybe you didn't get during the live class, but through the discussion panel, you get to hear everything. Thank you. And over.
Thank you, Justina. And yeah, that is a perfect answer to a lot of the questions that have been coming in. There have been quite a few questions about what kind of background you need to have. And it is a varied background is okay. There are certain requirements in the application requirements in terms of an undergraduate degree. And otherwise, we've had participants from with a wide variety of training. So one of the questions someone asked if it's okay if you have a background in engineering, and the answer is yes. The environmental policy, yes. Environmental law, or not even environment. There's not any strict requirements, and then once you start the program, then there's a variety of materials that you can consult depending on if there are any gaps that you realize that you feel you need for the program. I will say to put in your application, if you are worried about this question, don't worry, first of all, but then also put in your application what your background is and why you're interested in this program, and be very explicit about that, even if it's not in direct relationship to each other.
Just to quickly emphasize that point, as somebody who plants a lot of trees, tropical forest landscape restoration is a hell of a lot more than just planting trees. And it's a really holistic approach. There's a lot of different ways to tackle it.
I know we're sorry.
No, go on, Carrie.
I was going to say, I know we're talking about the different backgrounds people have in the program. So as Jillian highlighted, like, you know, we have people that have worked in the field, but people that are really coming into it with something new. And it'll be a little bit more of a learning curve. You know, if you're not having taken ecology courses, you'll get a lot of new concepts thrown at you, but you'll learn a lot, and it's okay. You'll just maybe need a little more time to digest. But in terms of requirements, it's not a limiting factor. I also just wanted to flag, someone asked sort of in a funny way about focusing on non-tropical ecosystems, or maybe soon-to-be tropical ecosystems. So the program is focused on tropical forest landscapes, but you are definitely welcome to focus your capstone project on other ecosystems. So I think in our current cohort, we have someone focusing on the redwoods, someone focusing in the northeast of the US. So the general concepts and tools still apply. So those project planning tools, the building of conceptual models are all really useful regardless of the ecosystem you're in. You will just find that, you know, we'll be focusing on tropical forest landscapes in some of the lectures and a lot of the case studies and a lot of the content. So it will be a little bit different, but if you want to think about a project that's non-tropical, that's definitely more than welcome.
So I think we'll have time for one more question out loud. Take a look at the answered questions from Karen in the chat, and then we can also try to follow up on some of these more logistical questions in general.
Gillian, if I may just chip in one
Oh
more
yeah, go
sentence that I
ahead.
wanted to, and it echoes what Karen has just mentioned.
Mhm.
So I'm one of the many examples of the people who didn't have an environmental background. I mentioned it. I'm in finance. I think in the end, you know, given the climate change we are going through, we need good people all over the place and all over the industries. And this program gives you a solid background to better understand what's happening and how you can act. And I think that's, you know, that's one of the key things that I think you should also be convinced of, and that's one of the things that I took out of the program. The only thing, and Karin, you have mentioned, is because I had no environmental background whatsoever, I really forced myself to be very strict. So week by week, you get milestones, you get homework to do. And so I took a point to really not miss any week, which I managed almost, because otherwise you accumulate too much. And so as Karin mentioned, sometimes you need a bit more time to understand the concepts and so on. So you need to be very disciplined with the work over the year. That's just a little advice.
Absolutely. So we'll follow up a little bit in a second with the information on how to get in touch with us. There's also been some questions about today's slides and recordings. The first part from Karen about the general part will definitely be made available, and then we will make available what we can, protecting the privacy of the participant projects and everything. So we'll send out the information we can after this session in the next few days or so. And we'll also post that first part, at least, to the to ELTI's YouTube channel. So to wrap us up, we wanted to share a few more information about how to get in touch with us. So reminder, the priority deadline is February 28th. The final deadline is March 28th. And then there's a lot of materials on our website. There's also a new testimonials page on our website that we encourage you to check out. So that way you can hear from more than just these participants, and then we could also help connect with you with others if there's someone who has a background similar to what your background is or your interest in the program. Sign up for our mailing list. We'll put these links in the chat in just a second. But definitely sign up for our mailing list if you're not on it already. We send out regular correspondence about not only about the deadlines, but also sharing about what's happening in the program and different learning opportunities. And you can speak one-on-one with one of us as program mentors. Through the links here that we'll put in just a second. Through these links, you can book a 30-minute session to speak with either Karen or me. And that's been a nice way that if you want to talk about your personal situation, it's a really nice way to get to do that and kind of have some of your questions answered in a more personal basis. So I just put that that link in the chat. Karen just put in the chat the contact form for getting on our mailing list. So we definitely encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities if you're able. Also, there's some different learning opportunities. We welcome you to watch a free lecture offered by Zoraida Kaye. She's coordinator of ELTI's Columbia program. I'm putting in the chat the link to that lecture. And Zoraida is one of the lecturers in this program. In fact, this is a recording from a past info session, but in general, it's a similar presentation to some of the types of case studies and presentations you'll find in the program. One of the 130 something presentations that Karen mentioned. Also, in 2 weeks, you're welcome to join us for a lecture called The Importance of Interdisciplinary Training, offered by ELTI's director, Dr. Eva Guerin. And Dr. Guerin is the lead instructor for the socially focused people course in the program. So you can get a sense of her from that open webinar. And then also at the link we'll provide for the webinar, you can register there, but you can also view the recordings from the past webinars where a variety of our ELTI team members present different lectures that are open to the public. And these are also the same presenters as many of the ELTI speakers in the program. And that's about it. So we really appreciate you all joining us here today, and we really appreciate our panel of Wesley, Justina, and JD for coming and sharing all of your thoughts and perspectives. I know it's really helpful as people are grappling with their choices or thinking about their applications to hear from people who've actually enrolled in the program. So we really appreciate you coming and sharing your insights here today. So thank you, everyone, and take care.
Pleasure, and thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.